I do have the piano mics all the way off. I think it's somehow feedback. Now we turn
David?
Test. So if we're getting feedback, then it's not me.
Somehow it must be
We're trying to sort out a feedback problem here. Happy New Year, everyone. New Year bringing all its potential stress and joys too. Oh, we gotta set that up. Somebody put it? Okay. All right, let's see if we can walk through this here. Okay. I heard the bells on Christmas Day. Their old familiar carols play. Mild and sweet their songs repeat. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. And the bells are ringing, peace on earth, like a choir singing, peace on earth. In my heart I hear them, peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said. For hate is strong and mocks the song. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. But the bells are ringing, peace on earth, like a choir singing, peace on earth. Does anybody hear them? Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then rang the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. Peace on earth, peace on earth. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail. With peace on earth, goodwill to men. Ringing, singing on its way. The world revolved from night to day. The voice that chimed with chant sublime. The peace on earth, goodwill to men. And the bells are ringing, peace on earth. Like a choir they're singing, peace on earth. With our heart we'll hear them. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Do you hear the bells are ringing? Peace on earth, like the angels singing, peace on. Open up your heart and hear them. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Peace on earth, peace on earth, peace on earth, goodwill to men.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you, Beth, for starting us off well this morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. In the spirit of our Unitarian Universalist community and in a sense of purpose for our daily lives, we reflect today on our strengths and our concerns and our grief and our joy. May our journey be one of love, authenticity, and reverence. May we shape our lives, our work, and our days as an expression of that joy and that love and our commitment to serve each other and our world. My name is Bob Lindahl, and it's my privilege to be your service leader today, as it is a few times each year. It's always a joy to have different speakers with us and to be with everyone. So we have a tradition of asking people who might be new visiting us today, people who haven't been here for a while, or people who just want to pronounce their existence this morning, to stand and introduce themselves. So do we have anyone in one of those three categories? Yes.
I'm from Door County.
When your name is Tom? Okay. Welcome, Tom. Anyone else? Now that Tom broke the ice. Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you. If you have any other announcements, could you raise your hand, please? And Terry will come around with the mic. And so, is there anyone else? Judy.
Judy Brudd. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to make a quick announcement. I'm going to post it on the board, but everybody is welcome to join us. We're having a celebration for our Door County Indivisible. So many of you have participated, you've contributed, you've done so many things over the last several years, and we just want to have a party. So we want to have a renew. The idea is renew, recharge, and re-engage. And so that's what it's all about. It's going to be at the Crest Center on January 19th, 2 to 4. Renee Pablamham, you know and met, is going to give us some future ideas. She's such a positive person. But mostly it's just to eat food and be together and thank everyone. So please come. I'll put it up on the bulletin board January 19th.
Anyone else?
This announcement is on the back of your bulletin, but the Dickinson Poetry Series is moving back to the second Wednesday of each month, starting this month. So this coming Wednesday, the 8th, will be our featured speaker, Kevin Hess. And he is a Door County poet, and he has a new book out. So we encourage you to come and listen. And if you are a poet yourself, or maybe just starting out, feel free to participate in the open mic.
Anybody else?
Good morning, everyone. Beth Coleman, and just want to thank Phil for having the idea of offering the first song that he did this morning. And it just felt like with Kathleen talking about stories, that all the music that we've chosen for today really is story about the Christmas season. So as you think about that and listen, Silent Night in particular, it's wonderful that Phil can join us with guitar and piano, since it really was composed for the guitar. So that feels like a fitting way to honor that story. And we're just happy to have him with us today.
Thank you. Anybody else? Someone on this side of the room, perhaps. No? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Just a couple of more items before we begin our service today. Please remember to silence your phones before we begin the service today. If you're having difficulty at any time hearing during our service, please raise your hand and we'll try to adjust the volume, help you out there. And then following today's service, please join us over in this corner of the sanctuary. Those of you would like to have a little discussion with Kathleen, learn a little bit more about her work on some of these stories and so forth, please join us up front here. Listen for the chimes probably 15 minutes or so after the end of the service. You're welcome into the gathering room for refreshments, and then maybe 15 minutes later we'll ring chimes to join back over here. So we welcome Kathleen Harris to our service today. It's not Kathleen's first time. Would you say one other time or quite two other times? Huh? Kathleen has retired after working in a career as a naturalist at Peninsula State Park. And now she's more into nature walks, writing, more gardening, and more laughs. She's the author of From the Lookout, Memories of Peninsula State Park's Summer Camp for Girls. You know, I'm a Toyota owner, and I go down to Lemieux Toyota every once in a while in Green Bay, and one of the vehicles that he displays in his antique collection there is the old, I think it was an old Ford early 20s station wagon that they used at that camp in Peninsula State Park. It's kind of an interesting little story there about that too. Kathleen has also worked at the Ephraim Historical Foundation, serves as a cemetery superintendent at the Ephraim Moravian Church, and also works with SAIL, Seniors Advocates for Independent Living. So we welcome you this morning. So we'll begin now with our chalice lighting with these words. Can you hear them? Can you hear the whispers of our ancestors? We remember their stories are in these walls, in our bones, in the air that we breathe. Their stories are in the touch of a calloused hand, in the melody of songs that we hum while we perform the mundane, in remembering faces. And we hear the whispers of our ancestors, how their stories have touched our lives, and a call to us into becoming who we truly are. So we would ask you to rise now as you're able and to sing the first hymn. And please remain standing for the unison affirmation and the doxology. Number 324. I celebrate life's mystery. I celebrate death's truth. Only is not confined to mother, maid, and child, but in that includes all creatures be there great and wide. My family upon the fruit of the living thing, on land or in the ocean deep, or born aloft on wing, ever spinning universe, while there shall be my home. I sing and spin beneath as through this life I go. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within the caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, in every land, by every tongue. Thank you. Be seated. So sharing our joys and concerns give us that experience that we call community. We invite you to spread your joy or to ease your burdens with our community this morning. If anyone has a joy or concern they wish to share, would you raise your hand? And Helene?
Hi, I'm Helene DiUlio, and I had the joy of having my granddaughter and her two grandchildren, her husband, and their big dog, big as a pony, staying with me for 11 days. And that is my joy, but the other joy is that they left. But one other thing I want to add is that we went up to Peninsula Park, and I had never been to the top of this new tower. I'd been to the other one several times in my life. But anyway, I started up with my walker and determined to get to the top. But of course, that was wishful thinking. So I sat down on the walker and my granddaughter pushed me all the way to the top.
Okay. Okay.
Jerry Friedberg. I had the great pleasure of my only kid here, my daughter Molly, and her 10-year-old granddaughter, to whom I presented the baby Bennington rocker that Molly had as a little one. On the other side of it is I've been very moved by watching and thinking about our former president, Jimmy Carter, and seeing the ovations that he well deserved.
Lindley is a minor joy followed by a greater joy. My kids and grandkids gave me a bottle of rosé Prosecco for Christmas. The great joy of that was Thursday at our bi-weekly Rummy Cube game. I sat with 3 nonagenarians, being the baby octogenarian, and we played the Rummy Cube and had the Prosecco.
Okay.
Age is great.
Hi, I'm Sally Malm, and I just wanted to thank everybody for my celebration of my 90th birthday. My 2 best friends handled it, and they were so gracious, and people sent not flowers, but cards. I just had a really good time. Thank you.
Dave Studebaker, had both a joy and concern. Karen and I visited Ken and Carol yesterday and had lunch with both of them. Although Carol can't intake any food, she joined us in spirit and from the couch. Carol's doing amazingly well, at least emotionally. She's a very strong person, and she's if anybody could get better, she will. She'll find out later this week what the prognosis for surgery is. And Ken's doing an amazing job in the meantime.
Thank you.
Good morning, Dave Vermillion. Just a short reflection on an experience that Meg and I had in 2016. We went out to Atlanta and we went to Jimmy Carter's Sunday school. which he of course was doing in those days at this little the Maranatha Baptist Church in Plains, Georgia. And he was 92 at the time, no hint of any sort of dementia or anything. And it was just a wonderful experience. And if you stayed for the service, then you could have a photo op. So we had our pictures taken with him. And it was quite an experience and a good memory.
Trish Black, I just wanted to offer the latest update I have on Mary Smythe. I had an email from Kathleen late Friday that they have a discharge date of January 13th. I'm sure that is dependent on a lot of factors out of anybody's control. I think it's up in the air whether they're going to try to get her from Colorado Springs to Cincinnati, where Kathleen is, which would make it a lot easier for everybody for rehab. But I think that is unknown. I think that's the hope. But that's a big undertaking to get her from halfway across the country to the other side. So she's still, I said to Meg this morning when I ran into her, you know, this is the living proof that what we're doing today and staying active in this community is just such a wonderful example of that. It does pay off. There are no guarantees, but it certainly stacks the deck in our favor. So we're going to continue to support them and wish her well, and we'll do our best to keep you posted.
Thank you.
I'm just mindful of a joy that I will have this coming week after sitting here and trying to hear what everybody is saying. I am finally going to get hearing aids
All right.
Friday, so I'm looking forward to it.
Anyone else? Oh, there we go.
I don't mean to be a downer, but mic up. I don't do mics. I'm Diane Trenchard. My brother, Bill, is a member of this parish, but he's distant. He lives in Minnesota. And tomorrow he has surgery. He is a victim of Agent Orange. And if anybody ever tells you that it didn't exist, it's all over, don't believe it. It was a horrible thing, and it has ruined the lives of a lot of ordinarily very healthy young people. And so he's one of them. So you think about it, he's having surgery tomorrow.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. So Dave's comments about the Carters reminds me of, well, two times. Wilma and I were down there together a few years ago for the same experience you had. But I went down there when I was alone. I went down there, I think after hearing about your trip and perhaps the Hansodias had been down there and whatever. But at any rate, in the service, of course, they prep you a lot before Jimmy comes in and so forth. And one of the comments that was made, that though being a community there, they said, you know, and that's a little town, but they said, there's a couple in our town that has reopened so-and-so restaurant down near the train depot. And, you know, make sure you go down there if you can after church today and enjoy their chicken dinner. They specialize in chicken. So I stood in line and talked to a man from the church who was parking cars. And we talked about how long have you known Jimmy Carter, and we talked, and you know, what do you do? He said, well, I'm a peanut farmer. I said, oh, then you knew Jimmy well. He said, yes, and our family was in competition with Jimmy's family, and we, you know, but he said, I like Jimmy now, and but then I went into the restaurant and was able to. I was standing in line waiting to get in the restaurant because they were holding security because they knew the Carters were going to be there. And so I got to shake Jimmy's hand as he walked in the restaurant. And I sat there in a place where, you know, no further than myself and Helene sitting in this little restaurant. I was sitting by myself, and the Carters were about that far away, sitting at a table, obviously with a grandson and so forth, eating their lunch. I must have been a little closer than Helene because is to me now, because I could hear them talking. And at the end of the meal, to show the Carter's humility, the server came by, and Mrs. Carter said, and yes, would you give me a to-go box, please, before we finish? So show the common experience of the Carters in their little town. So we'll now have our offering. We encourage you to give generously to our fellowship. You can do so obviously here or online at uufdc.org. So it's now time for our moment of quiet. Just to set a little tone for the moment of quiet, I'd like to just read a short piece to you. The pain that made you the odd one out is the story that connects you to a healing world.
A poem by Mary Oliver titled Messenger. My work is loving the world. Here the sunflowers, there the hummingbird, equal seekers of sweetness. Here the quickening yeast, there the blue plums. Here the clam deep in the speckled sand. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. The phoebe, the delphinium, the sheep in the pasture, and the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing, since all the ingredients are here, which is gratitude, to be given a mind and a heart and these body clothes, a mouth with which to give shouts of joy to the moth and the wren, to the sleepy dug up clam, telling them all over and over how it is that we live forever. Well, I am so grateful to be here today, to have this opportunity to share stories. And I have to comment on how whenever I'm here, which is not as often as I'd like, the group is so welcoming, and you can just land here. It just is such a good feeling to be here. So thank you for showing up today. These 3 True Door County stories are about knowing the rules well so that they can be broken effectively, deciding when enough is enough, and saving frogs for no measurable personal gain. The protagonists are real Door County people. Their names are Eunice Seiler Rutherford, Ernest Boos, and Julianne Panter Tuft. Each one took action to improve their life and the lives of others. Are we ready to do the same in our absurd, violent, and beautiful world? Our first story is titled, Eunice Breaks the Rules. When I worked at Peninsula State Park, Eunice Rutherford was my go-to person for everything Fish Creek. She was a trusted historian and colleague who tactfully shared Door County insights. In doing so, Eunice helped me avoid embarrassing faux pas, those ever-present pitfalls for curious collectors of stories like me. I am forever grateful for her friendship. Well over a decade ago, I invited Eunice for a car ride along Fish Creek's Cottage Row. We rolled slowly past iconic gray stone walls and angled summer homes built a century ago, tucked among verdant cedar trees along the magnificent shoreline. Mrs. Rutherford reminisced about the people and the times. Today, many of those summer estates have been torn down or upscaled into something bigger, but far less grand. When our conversation turned to Eunice's teaching days, the sentimental mood shifted. I discovered through a story she shared that this docile, white-haired, elderly woman knew the rules well, as the Dalai Lama reportedly said, so could break them effectively. By the 1970s, dress codes were all the buzz. Long-haired boys, short-skirted girls. Dress codes applied to teachers too, especially female faculty. Northern Door schools required women to wear dresses or skirt ensembles. If lady teachers wore trousers, it seemed, the social order just might collapse. Teachers at Eunice's sister-based school muddled along, including a young colleague, some of you may know, named Nancy Akerley, who was told by the visiting critic teacher that her above-the-knee skirt was too short and thus a distraction for third graders when she erased the chalkboard. By this time, the radical pantsuit was making inroads into schools across the nation. Eunice wondered, why not here? In 1972, she met with school board members wearing a pantsuit to show how professional and functional the outfit was for work that involved bending down or sitting with children. Soon after, something happened that made everyone gasp. Annette Erickson, Sister Bay's kindergarten teacher, wore a powder blue pantsuit to school. Perhaps she brought it at Prangy's in Sturgeon Bay, which was advertising sets for just $14.97. With Eunice leading the charge, all female faculty showed up to work in pantsuits. The response from administration was silence. And so Door County ventured a little further into the 20th century. Breaking the rules effectively works when people first understand the rule's foundational principles. Rule breakers like Eunice Rutherford are really wisdom seekers, sensible souls who preserve the integrity of transactional systems by envisioning something transformative. But what if your experience with the transactional system is broken? And despite your best efforts, nothing changes, putting your very life in peril. That happened to Ernest Boos, who immigrated from Germany to Bailey's Harbor in the 1850s. And so begins our second story, titled Brave Departure. Who recognizes the name Boos, spelled B-U-E-S? Today, Boos Point is a quiet public boat launch at Mud Bay, northeast of Bailey's Harbor and a stone's throw from Caney Island. Mud Bay, incidentally, is known by a different name today that some people, like real estate developers, consider classier. Back in the 1870s, Boos Point was a thriving community with a blacksmith shop, store, and busy piers. About 100 people lived there, mostly fishermen and lumberjacks. Nearly all were employed by Boos, who had spent about 20 years building up a thriving business. This past fall, I spent a little time with Ernest Boos, researching his life and imagining who he was. I must confess that I've become a little infatuated. It started with a testimonial of sorts from Thomas and Julianne Tuft, who lived on the south side of Mud Bay across from Boos Point. According to the Tufts' daughters, Lucy and Emma, their parents considered Ernest Boos a kindly neighbor and a good friend. From all accounts, Ernest Boos was hardworking, fun-loving, and a steady provider for his large family. These were highly valued masculine traits in the 1800s and are still components of a core U.S. ideology known as American individualism. In 1862, town folk elected Boos Bailey's Harbor Constable. Boos was living the much coveted, often mythical American dream. It wasn't all roses. He and his wife, Paulina, suffered hard times, making his story less pie in the sky and more authentic. At least 2 infant children are buried at Boos Point in unmarked graves. The truth gave rise to fanciful ghost stories after Boos left Door County for Washington State. But for me, the truth about Ernest Boos is more interesting than make-believe. To that point, his military service record was an intriguing surprise. A news article in the 1862 Door County Advocate lists Ernest Boos as a draftee in the Union Army. Local papers noted that Boos reported to Camp Randall in November. Then my research trail, as the saying goes, went cold. There was nary a mention of military service in his 1909 obituary or on his Find a Grave website entry. I turned to military records available online and discovered that his unit, the 34th Wisconsin Infantry, Company E, disbanded within 9 months. Nearly 300 of the 961 drafted soldiers deserted their station. Boos was one of them. Eventually, officers were brought up on charges. Did personal experiences or historical events influence Boos's decision to call it quits? Risking fallout, knowing the power imbalance was not in his favor, Boos was nearing 30 when he was chosen for conscription in the U.S. Army. He had recently brought out his business partner. He was married, and his wife, Paulina Sherman, had just given birth to a daughter. They had lost their first baby a year or so earlier, soon after birth. 1862 was also the year of the U.S. Dakota War in Minnesota. But Boos would have called the 5-week conflict something like the Sioux Uprising. Today, some scholars label it a genocide of the Sante Sioux, indigenous people comprised of several eastern bands of Dakota Indians, people of the 7 Council Fires. Broken agreements and misinformation fueled the conflict. Fear and desperation was rampant, and it's nearly certain that Boos, the Bailey's Harbor constable at the time, attended a Door County countywide meeting in September 1862 where men here were asked to arm themselves in case trouble spilled from Minnesota into Wisconsin. The conflict ended with bloodshed on both sides, though not in Wisconsin. There were Minnesota settler fatalities. Bloodshed included execution by hanging, too. President Abraham Lincoln ordered the execution of 38 Dakota men. He commuted death sentences for another 264. There is no precise account of how many women and children died. And now for our last Door County story, saving frogs from the frying pan. This tale involves Boos's neighbor, Julianne Tuft. How many of you recognize her name and maybe even know something about the Tuft family legacy? Julianne was the matriarch. Her parents, the Panters, immigrated in 1856 from England to Dover, Wisconsin, in Racine County. Julianne was born in Dover. When she was about 6 years old, the Panters moved to Jacksonport, but soon built a farm in Bailey's Harbor. It was on County F, where About Time Farm is today. At age 16, Julianne married the foreman of the quarry at the Mud Bay. His name was Thomas Tuft. He boarded at the Panther farm when he first arrived in Bailey's Harbor and is remembered today as loving the ancient pines and hemlocks that grew on the quarry land that he and Julianne would come to own. I think fewer people recognize the role Julianne played in instilling in their children a love of trees and other creatures and the need to fiercely protect them. So let me share a Tuft family memory taken from Roy Lucas's book about Tuft Point. He quotes Emma Tuft in a conversation from 1971. Miss Emma was one of Julianne's daughters. Emma told Roy, and I'm going to lift up my voice a little bit because apparently, to my surprise, Miss Emma spoke in a higher voice. She had kind of that hot mid-20th century, little bit Jackie Kennedy, I'm thinking. Emma told Roy, "My dear mother taught us to kill nothing. She took the spider she found in the house outdoors and the moth. When the boat came with a scow to get a load of stone, she knew the cook would be looking for frogs in the ponds. So she sent the 3 oldest children, Will, Olive, and Mary, to chase the frogs out of the ponds. For the cook ruthlessly cut their hind legs off and left the frogs to die." Batter fried frog legs were, and in many places still are, considered delicious, but never a tough point, not when Julianne lived there. Incidentally, the name of a road in Bailey's Harbor may have a connection to eating frog legs. Etymology sources claim that people called the French froggies because of their appetite for frog legs. French Canadian lumberjacks did work in Bailey's Harbor in the mid-1800s. So can you see how Frogtown Road and Bailey's Harbor may have gotten its name? So there you have it. 3 different stories about Door County people risking consequences by standing up for their values. This coming year, will we be brave enough to do the same? Nigerian-born writer Kofi Biokolo wrote, "Fear is the thing that paralyzes, while bravery is the thing that frees. Brave people live in such a way that the world knows you are afraid, but you love more than you fear."
Thank you, Kathleen. A lot of thought went into all of that, and we really appreciate those recollections. So in finding the closing hymn for the service today, I had a problem because I wanted to end the service with a rousing Christmas carol, and yet I found another hymn that was perhaps more appropriate for the message and the theme that we've had today. So I'd like to just read this other hymn to you before we do the final hymn of the day today. The hymn is in our hymnal 317, and it's called "We Are Not Our Own." And I'll just do the best I can to convey it to you here. We are not our own. Earth forms us. Human leaves on nature's growing vine, fruit of many generations, and seeds of love of life divine. We are not alone. Earth names us, past and present. Peoples near and far, families and friends and strangers show us who they are. Therefore, let us make thanksgiving and with justice, willing and aware, give to earth and all living things liturgies of care. Let us be a house of welcome, living stone upholding living stone, gladly showing all our neighbors that we are not our own. So our closing hymn today is number 345, Joy to the World. And in spite of, as we look to this next year, let's enter it with a sense of joy and hope that we can carry that through with us. 245, I'm sorry, 245. Please rise. Joy to the world, the word is come. Let earth with praises ring. Let every prepare a room, and heaven and nature sing. Heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, now gladness reigns. Let hark their songs implore. Fields and floods, rocks, hills and plains. The sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. No more let sins and sorrows groan, nor thorns infest the ground. These closing words from Howard Thurman called The Work of Christmas. When the song of the angels is stilled, and when a star in the sky is gone, when the kings and the princes have gone home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to build the nations, to bring peace among others, and to make music in the heart.